One of the, in addition to some of the real-time marketing efforts that we started the morning out with Anjana, there's one really interesting one that took place recently that Sharp TV was behind. It's a really fascinating example of listening to what's going on in the social media sphere and deciding when and where and exactly which kind of conversation you can slip into and become a meaningful part of and get real traction. As you'll see, I'm going to let our presenters go through the details of this one because it's a little involved, but it has to do with Sharp TV's Sway's first TV real-time marketing, what some call a stunt, but it was inserting oneself into an emerging conversation that happened very quickly online and making the most of it and actually making a real splash by getting the brand in just the right kind of conversation and just the right tone. To take us through this case study, we have Mandy Cudahy, who's the social media manager at Sharp, joined by Mauricio Aguayo, who is the senior social strategist at Rockin, who helped Sharp put this together. Please welcome both of them.
Thanks. Thank you. Let's see if I can speak into this mic. Okay. All right. Yeah. So how to do real-time marketing right, well, so to speak. It's Sway's first TV, the power of partnership, social listening, and PR. Just to give you a little bit of background on us, my name is Mauricio Aguayo. I'm a senior social strategist at Rockin. Rockin is Sharp's digital agency of record. At Rockin, as part of the social strategy team, I lead content strategy as well as community management. And I also, as part of that, help find opportunities and solutions that meet Sharp's business goals.
My name is Mandy Cudahy. I'm the social media manager for Sharp Electronics. I'm in charge of our consumer division. My roles and responsibilities at Sharp are working with Rockin to help develop strategies that educate our consumers, excite people around the brand, and empower communities of advocates.
Okay, so as part of the next 30 minutes, we just want to share with you and hope to get some more insight around real-time marketing. What does that mean today? And what are some insights we could gain from an experience that we had together? So I think one of the main common characteristics about social marketing these days has been really the ability to engage in a two-way dialogue with your audience, engage with your consumer directly, and then build a community around that with the focus on consumer behavior online, their needs, their wants, their interests, and even their concerns. So this is all what social media has brought to the business. And as part of this, I think brands have started to realize that they can become all of a sudden more nimble. They can adapt and become even more proactive and reactive than they ever were before. So this has sort of led to a series of opportunities that brands have started to be able to capitalize on if they're prepared to do so. So with this notion comes the idea of speed. How do we start to engage with consumers quicker than we ever were before and in a more meaningful way than we ever could before? Brands were not usually built to handle a nimble or agile approach as this. And so I think as brands have started to adapt, they've begun to realize that with preparation, meeting opportunity, they're able to now capitalize on things and make moments a lot bigger and a lot more meaningful than they ever were before. So Mandy and I are going to take you through a story of how both opportunity and preparation met for us to capitalize on a moment that we found online that brought together Kanye West, an MC on MTV, and Sharp Electronics. To kind of give you a little bit of an introduction and a feel for what that campaign looked and felt like, I'm going to take you through a little 1-minute video, and hopefully this works.
What brings you here today?
Well, Claire, I'm from Sharp Electronics, and we saw your story on Rep Live, and we were really inspired by it, and we really appreciated your loyalty to Sharp. So we wanted to present you with something to show you that even though we had great 36-inch TVs back then, we've gotten a little bit bigger. We wanted to give you this the Sharp Aquos 9-inch TV, which is the largest LED TV. So we have the remote here.
First of all, it's a beautiful television, clear as hell. I mean, you can see what a person is thinking on the screen. All right, great start, man. Thank you. Yeah, look, Sharpies, he grew up. That you got to see this. Sharpies graduated from college. All right.
So that was just a little bit of a highlight of what we did, but just to dive into the story a little bit more. The situation all started off when, I don't know who's familiar, but the Hottest MCs list is released in March, and Kanye West has been very used to being ranked pretty highly on it. This year, he was ranked number 7 by Sway Calloway here, who you see on your right-hand side, and he wasn't very happy about that. And Kanye West has a no press policy. So on the day that he was ranked number 7, he happened to break that policy and call into New York City's Hot 97 radio station on a tear, which he doesn't usually do. And one of the pointers he made, beside their long relationship of many, many years, is that he gave Sway his very first television, which happened to be 2001 Sharp 36-inch tube television. And he was pretty upset that, after all of that, and he gave him his first TV, that he was ranked so low. To immediately when this was done, if you go to the next slide, the topic Sway's first television started trending on Twitter. So all of some media picked it up, consumers picked it up, and they were really excited that, or shocked that Kanye broke his policy specifically for this campaign. So we were able to take notice of that and start watching a little bit more carefully. It happens the next day that Sway wanted to still show his appreciation for the television, so he ended up bringing his 36-inch television, which he named Sharpeezy, onto Rap Fix Live, which is his show on MTV, and did a tribute to Kanye and told the whole story about how Kanye had given it to him at his house. He said it was too small, he didn't want it anymore, so Sway lifted the thing up and dragged it out to his trunk, but he did happen to make a small jab at Kanye, saying he forgot to give him the remote to the television, so all these years he's been walking up to the television to turn the channel. So that's how the story started off. So what does that mean? So what does that mean to Sharp, and how are we able to capitalize on it? From a strategy standpoint, Sharp has been very much focusing on listening, like Mauricio mentioned earlier, to our consumers, so that we're able to get product feedback, build relationships with our customers, provide excellent customer service, and really join in conversations that make sense for us.
So I guess as part of that consumer focus, we wanted to basically think, how can Sharp integrate itself into this conversation seamlessly and without being too brand heavy, basically in the most authentic way possible. And so part of that, we felt, well, we need to make this a big deal. We came up with a creative idea. The idea was really simple. We didn't want to leave Sway with his 12-year-old 36-inch tube TV, even if Kanye West gave it to him as a gift. We wanted to upgrade him to what was now the largest LED TV in the world, which just so happens to be Sharp's 90-inch Aquos LED TV. So the Sharp and Roken team, we flew to Austin, Texas, to South by Southwest, which just so happened to be happening the following week. Sway was broadcasting his radio show from South by live for the entire week. So we quickly partnered with his team, and we were able to surprise him on his radio show, as you just saw in the video, with the 90-inch TV. And also to emphasize on the consumer focus that Sharp has, we brought him that remote control that Kanye forgot to give him the first time around years ago. So as part of all of this, well, we wanted to bring in the audience. We wanted to make sure that, that Sway wasn't just left alone and this was just Sway's experience. So we were also doing a giveaway online, and we integrated this with an event at South by as well.
Yeah, so we were able to actually get the audience excited, because you go out there and you do something with a celebrity, consumers are like, okay, great, where's my television? So we wanted to give them a chance to be able to get behind the scenes intake the whole time we were there, as well as give them the chance to win a television as well. And then we were able to attend one of Sway's events at the music portion of South by Southwest, go to the next slide, where we were able to actually give someone in the audience a television, and then have our 90-inch television up on stage with some pretty famous 90s rappers, including Master P, Talib Kweli, and Raekwon.
Right, so we had an integrated online portion, we had a live stunt, we had a sponsorship of the live event, we had a radio broadcast. All these things sort of came together very quickly. We felt that a nice way to package it together and get even more reach, because this deserved it at this point, was a good PR effort. So part of this, we leveraged our own in-house digital PR offering as well, and reached out to a lot of magazines and online blogs, and it got picked up very quickly. Eventually, both MTV, Complex Magazine, even Fast Company and Digiday covered this story. So we had techies to music fans all basically integrated into this campaign in a really nice way. Even so much so that a month later, which was about a few weeks ago, or a couple weeks ago, the #1 listed MC on that list that Kanye was upset about, Kendrick Lamar, related to this event to Sway getting a large screen TV on one of his lyrics to a song that he did just 2 weeks ago. So that really proved to us that he was still relevant, that this conversation was actually touching the actual culture that we hope to integrate ourselves into.
We also received later on some pictures from Sway as his TV was installed in his home, so that really gave consumers and fans sort of an insight on it not just being a stunt, but showing what it looked like in the home and how excited he was about the whole thing.
Yeah, so that nicely wrapped up the campaign. So just to kind of give you, there was a lot of factors here, just to kind of give you a timeline of how everything came about. First was our social listening, which is where we found and identified this conversation and flagged it for Mandy and her team. Approvals were made fairly quickly. We came up with a creative idea. All this happened in a matter of a few days. And then we teamed up with Sway's team at South by, the event producers at South by, and we flew down there to do the giveaway. We hosted a Twitter giveaway the following day after that, after Sway's 25 million listeners heard about it. And we closed it out with the Hip Hop Showcase, where we gave away the TV to attendees there as well. The span of this whole timeline basically took about max 8 days. The first 2 were in the first couple of days, and the rest were just logistics, pretty much.
So the results, we were able to get in 2 days over 13.5 million impressions across many different media outlets. We had 25 million viewers the day that we surprised Sway with the television. We had 4 million Twitter impressions, 1,400 new Facebook page likes, 900 new followers, and all it cost us was 3 televisions.
Right. I think one of the nice insights about this is that there was really no paid media effort behind it. We moved quickly, and we felt that this was something that we could leverage organically, just from the pure excitement that fans brought to the event. So what can we learn from this? We just wanted to pull some insights on how we feel it's necessary for brands and agencies to partner and to be prepared for something like this to happen. So the #1 thing out of 3 that I want to point out is preparation. Both the brand and agency have to really share a strong foundation, something symbiotic and a really close relationship for them to be poised to take on opportunities like this when they arise. Specifically from the brand side, internal processes ideally should be more dynamic rather than static. I know this is a lot easier said than done, but brands, I think, are starting to realize that, at least when it comes to social and digital specifically, they need to become more nimble and have processes that are able to respond to different opportunities as they arise. There should be a clear content strategy that's established long before. So both the brand and the agency clearly need to be aligned on who their audience is and how they're speaking to their audience online, so that when this opportunity arises, it doesn't seem like they're scrambling to see whether this is relevant, whether they should do this. Decisions could be made a lot quicker. There should be guidelines in place for quick approvals in certain situations. This sort of speaks to that dynamicity. And then there should be an air of trial and error, a willingness to take risks from the brand side as well. Also, when things like this happen, there's a lot of different departments that have to communicate to each other. If we didn't have a strong communication with our customer service and with the logistics team at Sharp, we wouldn't have been able to bring out the television as quickly as we did. We wouldn't have been able to bring out that remote control that we did to add that nice touch. Lastly, some brands like to set aside a media budget specifically for moments like this, things that maybe you can blow out a lot larger than they had been. From the agency side, you should be aligned as well, kind of what I mentioned on the content strategy long before. Definitely know your audience. There should be audience segmentation research that goes on long before, so that you're always able to identify whether this is in your right target or not. And then establish a regular listening protocol. As part of the customer service focus that Mandy mentioned, we had already established a daily listening, daily flagging protocol in case things like this arise. And lastly, be savvy enough to incorporate PR as quickly as you've incorporated all your other tactics, just because that can add a nice little layer to make it a really fully multi-channel approach. And then when it comes to media buying, on the agency side, you should already have identified what media you might want to enact, whether it be Facebook or Twitter or SEO, whatever it may be, in order to really capitalize on the moment if media is part of that plan. The second point is the multi-channel approach. I know that this is very commonly used in a lot of different ways, but it really mattered here when we were able to tie in the real-time marketing stunt that was held at a popular sneaker store in Austin, as well as the morning show that Sway speaks on every day to 25 million listeners, and then the social media giveaway on Twitter that happened via the hashtag that tied all the conversation in. And then as everything happened, we were taking and building new content. So we created content that was built for sharing. We were taking photos, taking videos. We created photo albums. And basically, we even had fans talk about it, and we used that content to share and distribute as well. Lastly, as I mentioned, of course, the PR support was the final channel that we used to tie everything together. And then lastly, timeliness. Of course, the timing of the radio show in South by was nothing that we had planned for or expected, but because it happened, we knew that we needed to capitalize, we needed to make it happen and made it a priority.
And some tips for that too is just make sure during events that you think are timely or are part of your schedule, just to up your listening a little bit more and be on the lookout for these type of situations, and also just make sure that you have teams available and ready to act quicker than you would normally on, let's say, time periods that maybe don't really relate to your brand or product.
Yeah, as Mandy said, holidays and seasonality, that's a good way to basically up your listening, make sure that on holidays or moments that are important for the brand, to make sure that you're really sharp and that the agency is focused on keeping eyes on the conversation more closely. And then lastly, being relevant and fitting into social conversation authentically and quickly, just making sure that you can enact these things and not seem like you're late to the conversation. If it's happening that day, make it happen that day, jump into the conversation at that time. So those are the really three key main focuses, just to review: preparation, a multi-channel approach, and timeliness. And we feel that a lot of this it can sound very prescriptive. We don't mean to say that this is necessarily the exact way that brands have to follow every real-time marketing campaign, but it really is more speaking to the mindset and the approach that you approach this business. It has to be fluid, it has to be dynamic, and you have to be willing to take risks. Thank you. If you have any questions or comments?
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I think we do.
Yeah, hi, John from Turn.
Hi.
Great insight, how you prep, acting nimble, everything. There's obviously this could be your prescription right now. There's a unicorn in the room about Apple launching their new TV or a unicorn they're coming out with.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a separate plan in place, and how often do you guys work on potential game plan to counteract that potential product release as well?
So you're speaking about maybe competitive products or products that might influence our campaign?
Correct.
Yeah, those are things that we definitely keep an eye out very closely to. So aside from listening to conversation that's happening about the brand, which happens whether you want to or not, you're also listening to competitors, and you're keeping track of what's happening with them. So as long as Apple or Samsung or other competitors are putting out displays or new products, we're also making sure that our conversation is either not interfering with that in a weird way so that your campaign isn't as effective, but we're also making sure that we are leveraging our strong points, and we're able to maintain a strong level of conversation throughout, whether our competitors are doing anything or not.
I think also to counteract it, we tap into, we have a pretty loyal fan base who really love their Sharp products. So during times when competitors are coming out with new products, we'll usually do some sort of smaller mini campaign to tap into these people and have them share some of the features and attributes of our products that maybe the competitor's product does not have. So that way we're still being relevant in the space, but not necessarily, again, interfering with their launch.
How do you make sure that it's not just a stunt, or it's not seen as just a stunt, but that it's tied back to some broader brand mission or brand message, so that it seems to the viewer who sees this either through a PR extension or just happens to catch it directly online, that this is something that makes sense within the context of their understanding of the brand.
I think that we take, again, it's situation by situation. We've come across a couple different types of opportunities with celebrities, and you're going to have those as you go, and you got to make sure that the ones that are coming up do make sense. So, for example, Kanye West got rid of that TV because it was too small. So we are trying to position ourselves as Sharp as the makers of the largest TVs in the world. So we took that opportunity to provide a loyal customer, being Sway, even though you didn't buy the TV, but a loyal fan of Sharp with a bigger television, and kind of slipped in there in a relevant way.
Yeah, and I think that it's very easy to forget as a brand or as an agency what to do in social media when these things happen. You're very eager to push out your brand message. And that's something that you need to do as a long-term strategy. But in moments like this, to really keep people engaged and not to lose them, you want to make sure that you tap into their interests. You want to make sure that this is about them and not about the brand. So, for instance, with the Twitter giveaway that we were doing, called #SwaysFirstTV, we got into that conversation by asking people to remember what was the exact size that Sway's TV was. Was it 36-inch or was it 40-inch? So we're tapping more into Sway's lifestyle, fans of Sway, keeping with the whole hip-hop vibe and the conversation that he had with Kanye West, and not really talking so much about what is Sharp's largest TV in the world. That's something that we just sort of inserted seamlessly by gifting him the largest TV in the world. So it's kind of, finding those nuances and making sure that you're not overstepping the boundary of being too brand heavy, and making sure that the conversation is about what consumers want and what they care about.
Mauricio, Mandy, thank you very much.
Thanks. I think we had one more question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have one. Did Sharp already have a relationship with Sway? And if not, how did you pull that all together in a matter of a couple of days?
So we actually did not have a relationship with Sway whatsoever. When we saw the tweet, we immediately reached out to their department.
Yeah.
With Rokan's help, they have connections, I guess, with the different.
Well, I mean, we just reached out. We reached out to their team, Cold and Simple, and we said, hey, we're representing Sharp Electronics, and we would really like to partner with you on this. We think it would be mutually beneficial for both teams. And just telling them really what our campaign goal was and what our idea was. They helped us ideate what they could be. They brought up the idea of the opportunity of sponsoring an event there at South by because they were going to be there. So it just worked out, just being honest and being open about your goals. A lot of times they're very eager to work with brands, so they'll respond quickly enough. And being that this was a very timely thing, they felt they felt the immediacy as much as we did.
It just so happened also during the exact same time when we reached out, someone from their team from another department also reached out to us as well. So they saw a mutual opportunity, not necessarily for us to give him a television, more or less to say, hey, do you want to do something on RapFix Live? We're going to now feature a Sharp TV on the show all the time now. So do you guys want to work with us? And then we said, hey, well, how about we do something a little bit more immediate and do something there.
Were there follow-up behaviors online? I mean, I can imagine a lot of people saying, "Hey, this is one way to get a TV," and then there's sort of a crowd of people trying to position themselves to get the same kind of gift from Sharp.
Well, I mean,
People always want TVs on our social channels.
Yeah, we talked to Sway after when the TV was being installed in his home, and he's like, "You have no idea how many people have come on my show now and see the TV," and we're like, "When do I get my TV? I'm big. How come I haven't received a television?" But no, we haven't had anyone try to necessarily reach out.
I mean, we just think that just adds to the excitement of the television and the brand itself. So, yeah.
Guys, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me ask David and the next panel to come up.